Welcome everyone, Farmer Cop here. Today we're going to take another test with the Precision Farming DLC. Today we're going to see what RTK stations do for us. So if this is what you're looking for, please stay tuned. Alright folks, as mentioned, we're going to take a look at RTK stations. So on the Precision Farming DLC, if you missed it, go watch my first few videos on it. But these are the RTK stations, which we're not going to mess with. We're going to assume, we're going to have to make a couple assumptions here in this episode. We're going to assume, one, that these are the same thing. We're not going to test this versus this. We're going to assume these both do the same thing, just one has a shed. The second thing we're going to assume is that if this is placed anywhere on the map, it's going to work. Now, we're not going to place it super far away. We're going to place it right next to the field we're working with, but we're going to have to assume that wherever that is, it's going to work fine, that there's no range to it. If I want to test range, I probably could do that in a future video, but this is just to take a look and see what this does for us. So what I have here on Felsbrunn, we're using field 29, which right now has wheat that was recently harvested on it. So what we are going to do is we're going to start with the first test being fertilizer here. And I'm going to do 5 different tests. I'm going to test if the RTK stations matter for fertilizing, if they matter for slurry, if they matter for seeding, if they matter for plowing and harvesting. Now, again, there's cultivating, weeding, there's different types of fertilizer, there's herbicide, there's all sorts of different things. But this is just to kind of see if what effect they do have on some of these, if they do have an effect at all. So we'll go ahead and take a look at some of this. So essentially my setup here, right now I have no RTK stations placed on the map. This is saved as it is. So I will hire this worker. I will time him going through. I will measure how much area he works, how much the worker charges us, how long it takes, and how much fertilizer he uses. So we'll measure all that. And then I will exit out of the game without saving, load back in, and we'll get the same setup. And then what I'll do is I'll place a RTK station end, and I'll just place it somewhere up on the top, anywhere on the field here, or somewhere around the field where it's not going to get in the way of the workers. Then we'll run the test again, then we'll quit again. Now when we load back in, there won't be that RTK station we had before. So what I'll do is I'll just place 2, which, I mean, we could save each time and put it in, but it doesn't really matter. It's not going to matter a whole lot. Again, we're assuming that anywhere that RTK station is, it's going to work for us. So that's what we're going to do for that, and then we're going to run the same test with the same kinds of equipment, or with the same equipment for each test, through all these different aspects of it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and run all these tests. So again, we're going to run slurry, and I'm going to show you the equipment I'm going to use in the store. So I'm going to use this tractor for almost everything. I'm going to use it with the biggest engine setup. This is what I have configured now. I'm going to use a new one for every test, but this is the configuration I will use. I am going to use, under plows, where are we at here? Plows, I'm going to use this plow. This one's a good intermediate plow, and we should be able to pull it with our horsepower. I'm also going to use, as you can see, I'm using this fertilizer spreader. And then slurry wise, I'm going to use this tank. And the reason being, it has 30,000 liter. There's no way we'll run out of slurry, which I don't think we'd run out with some of these smaller tanks, but this is a big one. It's all in one. No way we'll run out. So I'd probably be able to do the field in 2 rows. But anyhow, so that's the slurry tank we're going to use, still with the same tractor. As far as planting goes, we are going to use this guy right here. This is what we're going to use for this. We're going to run that guy. That guy's going to work fine with us. We're not going to worry about fertilizers. We're just going to have it filled with seeds. So we're going to run that. Harvester wise, we are going to run this guy because it has the highest capacity, 17,100, to make sure we don't have to unload. Because my goal for all of these is not have to reload or unload or do any of that. And then the header we're going to use is, it's not actually the one matched for that, because these ones go with that, but they're 12 meters. So I'm actually going to use the biggest header just to make my life a little bit easier. 13.7, we're going to use the case here. So we're going to run that. And again, different headers will run fine with that big of a combine. So that is the equipment we're going to use, and we're using this field right here. So we're going to plant wheat, we're going to harvest wheat, we're going to go through, everything should be pretty controlled, and then we'll test and see if it matters with 0 RTK stations, 1 RTK, and then 2 RTK stations. Because if we do go into the menu here, over to the help menu, we go all the way down to Precision Farming, General. It's down under General. Where is it at here? RTK Station. There are 2 new buildings available in the shop which have an RTK antenna on top. This antenna provides a better GPS signal for helpers. As long as one of the new buildings is placed on the map, that's why we're assuming the location, the accuracy of the helpers is increased, and they work up to 11% faster than before. That says up to 11%, so we'll see if we're getting close to that or not. But we'll go through and it'll be interesting to see. So I'm going to run all these tests and then I'll bring you guys back in and we'll discuss some of the results. All right, welcome back. So it took me a long time to get all these tests done. The plowing test actually took the longest. That one took over an hour to get done to run the 3 tests, and you'll see why in a second here. So we're going to go through some of the results. I did place 2 RTK stations up here when I loaded back in. I just kind of reset everything. This is where essentially I was placing them for the test, somewhere in this region up here. So yeah, and again, field 29 on Felsbrunn. So let's take a look at a couple things here. I'm just going to leave this open. And so you can kind of just see that and compare it. Well, you probably won't be able to see it when I have my charts up, but that's fine. So first thing we'll look at is plowing. So plowing wise, if there's 0 RTK stations, it took almost 25 minutes. And then with 1 RTK station, it took way less, like 10 minutes less. So that was a ridiculous. And I don't know if it was something, it could be something weird with the field, but again, I just hired a worker and let them go. And yeah, they just did what they did. Now, obviously the worker cost went down because the time was a lot slower. The acres worked were all the same, which makes sense. I'm just measuring that just to make sure that it's kind of reading that around the same level. So yeah, it seems like between 1 and 2 RTK stations, it really didn't matter a whole lot. And I don't know why the second one, which was faster, cost more on worker costs. No idea. I couldn't explain that to you. But I literally just documented numbers. Again, there's a little bit of human error in here, but there shouldn't be too much. So 1 RTK station seemed to help a lot. So plowing, definitely get that RTK station in place for that. Now, if we take a look at seeding, it didn't seem to matter at all, really. Everything was pretty much the same. With 1 RTK station, it dropped a little bit. The seed usage was the same on almost all 3, though it did for some reason measure on the first round that it worked on 1.18 acres versus 1.17, which is a little strange, but 1 RTK station dropped it down by 2 seconds and then backed up to 2 seconds when it went to 2 RTK stations. So that one doesn't seem to, as far as that, what that looks like to me is that it all did the same thing every time and it didn't matter. So that's what that shows me. The slurry test, looking at the slurry, it all was identical almost. The slurry used was a little bit different, but the worker cost, the time, and the acres worked were all the same no matter what. So that did not seem to matter hardly at all. And again, if you want to look at these charts, feel free to pause it and take a look if you want to look at any of these. Sometimes I forget I can do that when I'm watching YouTube videos. But anyhow, fertilizer did not matter either. Actually, this one was all identical. Seriously, it was all very, very identical. Now, again, like the 1/10 of a second over on the time was a little bit different for each one, but still overall it was the same. So that one was very conclusive. Now, the harvest one was definitely something you want an RTK station for. So it went from 441 down to 346, 344. So definitely worth it. The worker costs went down respectively. Acres worked was the same. And the harvest actually it got slightly less yield on the second 2 rounds. But again, it's overall that's not going to make that big of a difference. So there you have it. That is everything. If you guys enjoyed this video, drop a like down below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button up on your screen to join the Farmer Cop channel, to turn on your notification bells to make sure you don't miss any future videos I may post. This has been Farmer Cop. Thank you guys for coming and watching. And another side note, I do plan to do the question and answer videos next week or the week after that. Thank you guys for coming and watching.